New York City had a way of swallowing people whole. It was a city where anonymity was currency, and everyone seemed to move just a little too fast to notice anyone else. But that was fine with me. After everything I'd been through in Chicago, a little invisibility was exactly what I needed. I moved into apartment 3A in a pre-war brownstone on the Upper West Side. The building was old but charming, with creaky wooden floors, exposed brick, and an elevator that threatened to rattle apart every time it moved. The kind of place that smelled like old books and rain in the walls. Rent-controlled, suspiciously affordable, and managed by a quiet woman named Mrs. Greeley, who always wore the same navy cardigan and smelled faintly of Vicks VapoRub. Perfect. I told myself I was starting over. No more late nights scrolling through my ex's social media, no more crying in public bathrooms, no more looking over my shoulder. This was my reset. Then I noticed the apartment across the hall. 3B. At first it didn't seem that strange. Not every tenant is social, but after 2 weeks of living directly across from that door, I realized something. It never opened. I never saw anyone go in or out. There were no packages delivered, no food dropped off, no movement under the door, no sounds of TV or conversation. It was as if the apartment didn't exist. Except it did. There was a door, a black peephole, a gold number, a threshold. And sometimes, when I passed it, I could swear I felt something, like the tiniest shift in air pressure, like I wasn't alone in the hallway. I asked Mrs. Greeley once, casually, who lived there. She blinked at me. Nobody at the moment, dear. Been empty since last fall. Are they renovating? I asked. No, just vacant. I didn't press her, but something didn't sit right. The apartment didn't feel vacant, not at all. It was a Thursday night, late March, the kind of night when the wind howls down the avenues like it's trying to erase the city. I'd been curled up on my couch, half watching a true crime documentary, half scrolling my phone when I heard it. A noise. Soft, rhythmic, like a long, deliberate scratch against wood. It was coming from the hallway. I muted the TV and listened. Nothing. Curious. I tiptoed to my door and peered through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but just as I started to pull away, the door across the hall, the 1 to 3B, moved. Just a tiny shift. Like someone on the other side had placed their hand against it, or leaned into it. I stared at it for a full minute. Nothing else happened. I told myself I was imagining things. That old buildings creak and settle, that I'd watched too many Netflix thrillers, that my brain was just doing that thing where it fills in blanks with things that aren't really there. But when I went to bed that night, I locked every window and double-checked the chain on the door. The next day, there was a note under my door. The paper was yellowed, the handwriting sharp, almost old-fashioned. It read, "I know you see me. Please stop." My stomach dropped. I ran to the peephole. Nothing. 3B's door was just as still and silent as ever. I knocked on it 3 times. No answer. I pressed my ear to the door. There was breathing, faint, shallow breathing, right on the other side. And then a whisper. Don't trust what she tells you. I stumbled back and practically fell into my own apartment. Who was she? Mrs. Greeley? Someone else? And who was watching whom? That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the walls, every gust of wind outside felt like it carried a warning. At 2:47 a.m., I opened my door. The hallway was dark. One of the bulbs had flickered out. 3B's door was open an inch. I stared at it. From inside, there was a faint flickering light, candlelight, and the unmistakable sound of an old record playing somewhere far off in the distance. I should have gone back inside. I should have locked my door and never looked again. But something pulled me forward. A curiosity that felt unnatural, compulsive. I stepped across the hall. I pushed the door open. And what I saw inside made me scream. The scream that tore from my throat was raw and immediate, and yet the moment it left my lips, it felt swallowed by the room, as though the apartment itself absorbed sound. My voice fell into an eerie silence that pressed against my chest like a hand. I stood frozen in the doorway of 3B. The candlelight flickered, casting erratic shadows on the walls, and the room, if it could even be called that, was wrong, geometrically wrong. The angles didn't align properly, like the floor tilted one way while the ceiling sloped another, and the air, it felt heavy, ancient, laced with something that clung to the skin. There was no furniture, no bed, no chairs, no kitchen, just walls and wallpaper that looked burned in places and peeled in others, curling like old skin. But what made me scream wasn't the disrepair, it was what was drawn on the walls. Symbols! Hundreds of them. Scrawled in charcoal, ink, what looked like dried blood, Spirals, crosses, eyes, shapes I didn't recognize. Some tiny, some massive. They overlapped in some places, smeared in others. I recognized one, the same faded blue square symbol that was etched into the corner of 3B's doorframe. It pulsed faintly in the candlelight, and in the center of the room was a mirror, or what looked like a mirror. It was tall, floor to ceiling, and framed with rusted metal, but it didn't reflect me, not at first. I stepped inside. The door creaked open wider behind me, unprovoked, and the reflection changed. I saw the hallway, but it wasn't the hallway outside. It was darker, older, covered in ivy that shouldn't grow indoors, and there was someone in it.
A woman.
Pale, wet hair, eyes completely black. She raised her hand slowly and pressed it to the glass. My mouth went dry. She mouthed something. "Don't stay." The mirror cracked. I jumped back. The sound was sharp, final. The candle went out. I turned and ran. Out the door, across the hall, and slammed myself into 3A, bolting the door behind me. My breath came in ragged gasps as I slid to the floor. But through the wall, I heard music. A soft record crackle. And laughter. Children's laughter. The next morning, the door to 3B was closed, as though nothing had happened. I stood across from it, holding a cup of coffee that shook in my hand. None of it made sense. When I tried to tell Mrs. Greeley about the room, she just gave me a sad smile. "Some doors you're not meant to open, dear. That's why they stay shut." I wanted to press her, demand an explanation, but something in her eyes stopped me. Instead, I Googled everything I could. The symbol, the building's history, the prior tenant, anything. And I found her. Clara Whitmore, lived in 3B until 2019, reported missing, last seen in the building. Case never solved. But there was one detail that chilled me more than the rest. According to police reports, Clara was obsessed with something she claimed was living in her mirror. That night, I covered every reflective surface in my apartment. And still, as I lay in bed, I heard the whisper behind the walls. "We see you now." I didn't sleep much after that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, the girl in the mirror, pale skin like paper left in the rain, hair clinging to her face, and those eyes empty, endless, and black. The next day, I called in sick and stayed in bed. Every sound in the apartment made me jump: the hum of the fridge, the creak of the building, the scratch of tree branches tapping against my window. I kept thinking about the whisper, "We see you now." By noon, I was pacing. I pulled out my laptop and did a deeper dive on Clara Whitmore. She'd been an art history grad student, quiet, reclusive. According to an archived local news article, neighbors had reported her becoming paranoid in the months before she vanished, talking to herself, covering mirrors, scribbling symbols on the hallway walls. Her parents thought she had a breakdown. The police found her apartment in disarray, but no sign of forced entry. Just one sentence scrawled on the bathroom mirror in red. "They live behind the glass." My blood ran cold. I stared at my own bathroom mirror for a long time. Then I grabbed a towel and threw it over it. Around 3 p.m., someone knocked on my door. 3 soft knocks. I froze. Then a voice. "Avery? It's Leon, from 2A. I peeked through the peephole. Leon stood in the hallway, hands in his pockets. He looked nervous. I cracked the door. "Hey." "You okay?" he asked. "I saw you come out of 3B the other night. Looked like you'd seen a ghost." I blinked. "You saw that?" He nodded. "I heard the scream. Then you ran out." I figured I shouldn't ask, but he hesitated. "You saw her, didn't you?" My throat tightened. "Who?" "The girl in the mirror." I let him in. Leon sat on the edge of my couch, rubbing his hands together. 3 years ago, I lived across from 3B. I was in 3C then. I saw things, heard things, wrote it off as stress. "But it wasn't," I said. "No." He looked up at me. "I saw her, same as you. She appears to people who notice her. That's how it starts. And once you see her, really see her, you can't unsee her." "Who is she?" I asked. He looked haunted. "Some say she's the first tenant, from when the building was built. Others think she's a gatekeeper, a thing that's not supposed to exist here. Whatever she is, she wants to be remembered." I thought about the cracked mirror, the whisper, the laughter. "I've been trying to move for over a year," Leon admitted. "Every time I get close, something happens. A lost job, a sudden illness. It's like she doesn't let go." "She's trapped us here," I whispered. Leon nodded. That night, I dreamed I was standing in 3B again. The room was darker. The symbols pulsed with faint light. The mirror was whole, but something writhed behind it, just out of focus. The girl stepped forward. Her mouth moved. You opened the door. Now we can open yours. I woke up to find my apartment door standing wide open. I didn't move. My body was rigid with fear, my mind racing to convince itself this was all a mistake, that the door hadn't really opened on its own, that I hadn't just had a conversation with a neighbor who confirmed everything I feared was real. The apartment door stood slightly ajar, cool air curling around my bare feet like smoke. I reached for the door slowly and pulled it shut, bolting the lock 3 times. My eyes scanned the apartment, every mirror covered, the TV off, every light on. Still, the sense of being watched hadn't left. I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor, back against the wall, watching the door until the sun crept up the edges of my windows. Leon came by again around noon. He brought coffee this time and something else, a faded leather notebook. I wasn't sure if I should give you this, he said. It was Clara's. I found it hidden behind a vent cover in 3C after she disappeared. My hands trembled as I took it. The leather was cracked and soft, the pages yellowed and worn. The first entry was dated almost a decade ago. Day 1. Something's wrong with the mirrors. The bathroom one keeps fogging even when I haven't showered. I thought I saw someone behind me today, but when I turned, no one was there. I flipped to another entry. Day 15. I covered them, all of them, but at night, they hum, like they're alive. Sometimes, when I look into the dark, I see my reflection blink late or smile wrong. And another. Day 34. The thing in the mirror isn't me. It's learning, mimicking, but it doesn't get everything right. It's not just watching now, it's waiting. Each page built more dread. The entries grew frantic, jagged. Some were written in all caps, others trailed off mid-sentence. Symbols filled the margins, some of which I now recognized from 3B's walls. She was losing it, I whispered. Or she was documenting what was happening, Leon said quietly. We decided to go back into 3B. We didn't speak as we crossed the hall. The door was closed again, and I half expected it to be locked. But when I turned the knob, it gave. The apartment was colder this time. The symbols on the walls seemed darker, fresher, like they'd been redrawn. The mirror, still fractured, sat in the center of the room, draped now in a sheer black cloth that hadn't been there before. Leon stepped forward. This wasn't here last time. I reached out and pulled the cloth away. The mirror no longer showed a warped version of my hallway. This time, it showed 3A, my apartment, and in it, a girl stood at the window. Me? Only it wasn't. Her smile was too wide, her eyes too still. She didn't blink. Then in the mirror, I turned slowly and waved at us. I stumbled backward. Leon swore under his breath. We backed out of the apartment. As we did, I noticed something else, scratches along the inside of the doorframe, like fingernails dragging across the wood, over and over. Carved into the frame was a message. They never left. That night, I couldn't be alone. Leon stayed with me, and we pored over Clara's journal again. Toward the back, she had started sketching diagrams, one in particular that looked like the layout of the building. She had circled 3B. Next to it, written in bold letters, the anchor. What does that mean? I asked. Leon studied it. She thought 3B was a tether, a place where the veil between this world and something else was weakest. Maybe it's not just a haunted apartment. Maybe it's a gateway. A chill ran through me. And if it is? Then they're trying to cross over. The lights flickered. A whisper slithered through the vents. She's almost ready. At 3:17 a.m., the scratching returned. But this time, it wasn't coming from across the hall. It was coming from my bathroom, from behind the covered mirror. The scratching continued for over an hour. Not constant, intermittent, deliberate. A slow, patient scrape against the other side of the glass as if something waited for me to lift the covering. I didn't. I sat on the edge of my bed, wrapped in a blanket, phone in one hand, Clara's notebook in the other. Leon had gone home reluctantly around midnight. We'd agreed not to stay alone, but something told me I needed space to think. Now I regretted that. Each noise felt like a taunt, each flicker of the lights like a dare. The journal's pages whispered of rituals, reflections, and warnings that blurred the line between madness and reality. At 4 a.m., I finally pulled myself from bed. I crept into the bathroom and stood before the mirror. My fingers hovered near the towel covering it. I could still hear the soft scratch, now barely audible. I took a breath, peeled the towel away, and recoiled. The mirror was fogged. I hadn't taken a shower. I hadn't even turned the faucet. And there, just visible in the mist, were handprints. Not mine. Too long, too slender. I blinked, and the fog vanished. The mirror showed only me. but my reflection blinked out of sync. The next day, Leon returned. He had dark circles under his eyes and his hands trembled slightly as he held his coffee. "They're getting stronger," he said. I didn't need to ask who. We pored over Clara's journal again. Somewhere near the back, we found an entry we hadn't seen before. It was tucked between two glued pages. Day 48. The doppelgangers come first. They learn you, copy you, but they're never perfect. They move wrong, smile wrong, blink wrong. When they're ready, they try to replace. Leon leaned back. She was right about everything so far. "They're trying to get out," I said. "But they need a host." He nodded. "And they start with the anchor, me." That night, I set up cameras, one in the hallway, one in the bathroom, one facing the mirror. Leon stayed over again. We took shifts staying awake, watching the footage in real time. At 3:17 a.m., everything changed. The hallway camera caught movement, just a flicker. The door to 3B opened half an inch, then shut again. No one visible. The bathroom feed was worse. We watched in horror as the mirror fogged over on its own. And in the glass, behind where I should have stood, a figure slowly emerged, pale, wet-haired, unblinking. She stared directly into the camera. Then the feed cut to black. Leon and I didn't speak. We stayed awake until the sun came up. The next morning, the mirror was shattered. Pieces of it lay scattered on the bathroom floor like jagged ice. In the center, carved into the wall behind the glass, was a symbol. One we recognized from 3B. "You are the reflection now." Leon wanted to burn it all. The mirrors, the apartment, the building. But I couldn't shake the feeling that burning it would only make things worse. So instead, we did something stupid. We decided to go into 3B again, in daylight. Armed with flashlights, salt, and iron rods, whatever superstitious protection we could get our hands on, we opened the door. It wasn't empty anymore. The symbols glowed faintly, like they were pulsing with energy. The mirror had been repaired, fully whole again, and draped in red cloth. In front of it was a chair, and in the chair was a woman. She looked like Clara, but older, decayed, as if time had eroded her, but something had kept her stitched together. She didn't speak, just smiled. Her teeth were too white, too even. Then she blinked, and the walls screamed. Every symbol burst into flame. Blue fire that didn't burn just roared. The mirror shook, and the figure in the chair stood up slowly. "Clara?" Leon whispered. She tilted her head. "No, but she's in here." We ran. We didn't stop until we were 3 blocks away. Back in my apartment, I collapsed on the floor. My ears rang. My skin felt electric. The air felt heavier, as if something had followed us out. Leon stared at the blank TV screen. "They're not confined anymore." I nodded, and they want more. Behind us, the closet door creaked open. A whisper drifted out. "She's almost you." The whisper trailed off like fog curling through a door crack. I turned slowly to the closet, heart thudding in my ears. Leon stood. "Don't open it," he said. But I already was. The door creaked as it swung open, revealing a clutter of coats, boxes, and nothing else. Except a mirror, one I didn't remember owning. It was no bigger than a laptop screen, leaned against the back wall. Its glass rippled like water in dim light. My reflection looked normal at first. Same tired eyes, same tangled brown hair, same freckle on my chin. But then it smiled. I didn't. Leon yanked me back, slamming the closet door shut. "We have to break it," he said, breathless, "before it finishes the transition." "What transition?" He hesitated. "You're not going to like it." "Tell me." "If the reflection fully replaces you, you're gone, trapped on the other side. A shell of you lives here, controlled by whatever this thing is." My blood turned cold. I looked at the closet, then at Clara's journal on the coffee table. I lunged for it. The final pages had new writing that hadn't been there before. "Let her in. She's you now. Stop fighting." My fingers trembled. "She's writing to me." Leon looked grim. "Or it's her, the thing pretending to be her." We made a decision right then. We had to end this. We had to sever the connection, destroy the mirror in 3B, and seal whatever breach had opened. We prepared like exorcists going to war. Candles, salt, iron rods, Clara's notes, duct tape, and a hammer. I also carried a photo of myself from childhood, something real, something grounded. The apartment was darker than before, thicker, as if the air was more than just air now, alive and watching. The mirror was uncovered this time, and what it showed wasn't the room. It was me. Lying in bed, peaceful, still, my chest didn't rise or fall. I'm dead, I whispered. No, Leon said. Not yet. That's what it wants. We approached. The mirror pulsed. Leon made the first strike hammer to glass. It cracked but didn't break. A screech echoed through the apartment. Not a human one. We both struck at once. The mirror exploded in a flash of black smoke and freezing air. A figure stepped out of the cloud. Or what looked like me. Its smile twisted too high. Its eyes were black mirrors. You broke the gate, it said, but there are others. Leon lunged with the iron rod, striking its shoulder. It didn't bleed, it fractured like porcelain. It screamed, stumbling back into the remnants of the mirror. Then it vanished. We stood in silence, panting, the air still vibrating. Leon broke it first. That was you, or almost you. I nodded slowly. Then we're not done. I turned to the wall where the mirror had hung. Beneath it, carved deep into the brick, was a sentence. You've only cracked the surface. We didn't speak for a long time after that. Leon and I sat in my apartment, backs against the wall, staring at the jagged remains of the mirror in 3B. It hadn't just shattered, it had collapsed in on itself, leaving behind a swirling void of black dust and whispering air. The symbols on the walls had dimmed, but not disappeared. They're not all gone, I said. That thing said there were others. Leon nodded. Other mirrors, other gates, maybe even other buildings. But why me? Why now? Leon turned toward me slowly. Because you opened the door. I wanted to argue. I wanted to believe this was all random. But deep down, I knew better. Something had drawn me to this building, this apartment. Something had waited for someone like me. Someone curious, wounded, and just alone enough to start poking at the dark. And now it was awake. That night, I had the dream again. But it wasn't just the girl in the mirror. It was me. Dozens of me. Reflections without light. All watching from the other side of the glass. All whispering in perfect unison. Let us in. I woke up choking, my room filled with fog. Not steam, not smoke, fog. The temperature had dropped 10 degrees. My breath hung in the air. And across the room, my closet door was open. Leon burst in, bat swinging. It's starting again. He was right. The floor trembled, the lights flickered, and the wall where the bathroom mirror once hung began to pulse faintly. I stepped forward and placed my palm on it. A voice whispered from deep inside the wall. Clara never left. She just changed. Leon and I spent the next day researching. Clara's journals had mentioned something called the convergence, a moment where reflections and reality blend, where what's behind the glass walks freely among us. We found an old article online, dated 1973. The building had suffered a fire on the 3rd floor. One person was never found. Clara had drawn her in one of the notebooks. The same pale girl, the first one. This building is a gateway, I whispered. Leon closed the laptop. Then we need to seal it, permanently. We returned to 3B for what we hoped would be the last time. Armed with candles, salt, iron, and Clara's ritual instructions, we formed a circle in the center of the room. The air vibrated with tension, like a string pulled taut. We began chanting words Clara had written phonetically, each syllable strange and wet in the mouth. The walls screamed. The mirror shards began to float, reassembling themselves. Leon shouted, "Keep going!" From the mirror, hands emerged, thin, gray, boneless fingers clawing for the room. The circle pulsed with light. I held up the photo of myself as a child. I am real. I choose me. The mirror cracked again, and then exploded. A wave of silence followed, so total, it sucked the breath from the room. When it passed, the room was still, normal, empty. The symbols were gone, and so was the chill. But that night, I saw her. Not in the mirror, in the window, smiling. I stood frozen at the edge of my bed, staring at the window. She was outside. The pale girl, the one Clara had drawn 100 times. Her face leaned close to the glass, too close, like the pain wasn't even there. Her smile was soft and wrong. Her hair floated as if underwater. Leon grabbed the baseball bat again. "What is she doing?" I whispered. "She's watching." I closed the blinds slowly. I didn't want to know if she disappeared or if she stayed. The next morning, the city looked normal again. New York never paused for anyone's horror. Horns honked, dogs barked. Somewhere a saxophone played in the distance like this was any other Tuesday. But we knew better. When I opened my phone, there was a new voice memo. No number, no sender. I played it. Static, then whispering. The gate was only the first. You looked into us. We looked back. Now we wear your face. Leon leaned over my shoulder, his face pale. They're reaching further now. That evening, we walked the building floor by floor, knocking gently on each neighbor's door. Most didn't answer. Some were annoyed. One older woman on the second floor, Mrs. Dinelli, pulled us inside when we asked about strange noises. "I've lived here 42 years, she said. There's always been something wrong with this place. But lately..." She led us to her bedroom. The mirror above her dresser had been painted over in black. Not covered, painted. "They came through once," she said. "Back in 70. That fire wasn't an accident. Someone tried to stop them." My voice shook. "Who?" She looked at me, eyes rimmed in red. "Me." She told us everything. In 1973, she was in 3A, just like me. The pale girl had appeared then too. The fire had started in 3B. Someone had performed a ritual, half finished. It closed one door but opened 3 more. "They need reflections," she whispered. "Any reflective surface becomes a doorway. That's why I painted mine. You should too." Leon and I exchanged a glance. She handed us a small red book. "This is what the last tenant left behind. He didn't make it, but his notes might help." We took it and left. As we walked back upstairs, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. I wasn't blinking. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat with every mirror covered, every window closed, every light on. Leon passed out on the couch after reading half the red book. I flipped to the last page. "There is no mirror world. There is only one world. Ours. They want to make it theirs." I looked around my apartment. What if they already had? The final straw came at 3:17 a.m. Again, the smoke detector beeped. Then the kitchen faucet turned on full blast. Water poured into the sink. I ran to turn it off and caught sight of the window.
She was inside now.
In the reflection. Behind me. I spun. Nothing. But I knew she was closer than ever. The next morning, Leon and I painted the mirrors. We painted the windows, anything that shined, but that didn't matter anymore. Because the reflection now lived inside my eyes. Every time I looked in the mirror, she blinked first. I stopped turning on the lights. There was no point anymore. It wasn't the dark I feared. It was the reflection of the light. Every reflective surface had become suspect. I unplugged my phone, afraid the black screen might ripple. Leon avoided the bathroom mirror entirely. We spoke less now, communicating mostly in glances, our voices low even in daylight. The reflection was growing bolder. Once I caught her in the television, standing behind Leon, smiling. Another time, I saw her walk down the hallway in a photograph, an old picture that had been hanging since I moved in. She hadn't been there before. We began sleeping in shifts again, but the dreams started sinking. We'd wake up breathless, gasping the same sentence. "She's already here." The red book Mrs. Dinelli gave us had new pages. I swear they weren't there before. Fresh ink, no smudges. The final gate is not a mirror, it's memory. When they take your memories, they become you. I felt sick reading that. My memories had started to blur moments from childhood that felt rehearsed, like they'd been implanted by someone who had only read about them. Leon tried testing me. Favorite color, middle school teacher, the name of my first pet. I got most right, but not all. And when I blinked, she didn't. We decided to confront the source. We returned to 3B with salt, mirrors covered in cloth, and an old reel-to-reel tape recorder. The room was different, not darker. The walls had been freshly painted. The mirror was gone. The chair was gone. The symbols had been erased. But there, in the center of the floor, was a new mirror. Oval. Standing. Antique. We didn't bring it. Leon stepped forward. "This is a trap." I nodded, but I couldn't look away. In the mirror, my reflection smiled again. Then it spoke, out loud. "Avery, you're tired. Let me carry you." My knees buckled. My vision tunneled. Leon caught me before I collapsed. "She's trying to wear you down, possession through attrition. She knows my name now." We played the tape recorder. It was a last resort, something the Red Book suggested, a grounding tool, a way to force reflections to reveal themselves. The tape hissed. Then our voices from the apartment over the past week played back, but warped, distorted, until one unfamiliar voice rang clear. "You're the one who invited us. You opened the door. You smiled first." We turned and smashed the new mirror. This time, no explosion, no screams, only silence. Then, a low moan from beneath the floorboards. We pried up a panel. Beneath the floor, wrapped in mold-stained sheets, was a second journal. Clara's, the real one. This one had no symbols, no drawings, just one entry, written over and over again. "She is me. I am her. I am not me." Leon looked at me. Are you still you? I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure anymore. We sealed the panel back into the floor and left 3B. Not because we thought it was over, but because we knew it wasn't. You don't kill something that doesn't live the way we understand it. You contain it, you avoid it, you learn to live beside it. For the next week, the building went quiet. No whispers, no reflections. Leon and I barely spoke. He moved to a friend's place in Brooklyn, said he needed space, but we both knew he needed distance. And I stayed. Something in me needed to know if it was really gone. I spent my days watching windows and my nights avoiding mirrors. The photo of me as a child now hung on my fridge with tape across the glass. My phone stayed off. My TV stayed unplugged. But on the 7th night, I saw it. A new door. Not to 3B, not to anywhere on the floor plan. This one appeared in the hallway across from my apartment, where there had only been wall, black, seamless, no handle, no keyhole, just a frame and a presence. I stared at it for hours. Then I blinked, and the door blinked back. I didn't sleep. When I finally approached it, the air changed. Heavy, sweet, like flowers left too long in water. The hallway grew longer somehow, and the sound of the city dulled like cotton stuffed in my ears. There was a note on my floor the next morning. Welcome home. Written in my handwriting. Leon returned on the 9th day, pale, shaking. They're in Brooklyn too, he said. I saw one. In the glass of a subway car. It waved at me. I didn't need to ask what it looked like. It had your eyes, he said. But they were hollow. I opened the door to my apartment and we sat in silence. What do we do now? He asked. I looked at the blank screen of the TV. They're already here. We just have to remember who we are. But what if we forget? I didn't answer, because I already had. The door across the hall opened, and someone who looked like me stepped out. She smiled, and I smiled back. There are still moments I catch myself in the mirror and wonder who is looking back. The door across the hall remains. Some nights it disappears entirely, only to return when I least expect it. Leon visits less often now. He says every reflection makes him dizzy. He shaved his head and started wearing mirrored sunglasses, convinced the less he sees, the less they can see. I envy his clarity. I don't have it. Because last week, I found a photo in my drawer, me and Clara, smiling, in front of this building. Only I never met Clara. I never took that photo. And when I showed it to Leon, he said, "That's not you." But it was. Or it looked like me. Or maybe it was who I was meant to be. They say if you stare into a mirror long enough, something stares back. But what no one tells you is this. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it moves on. And sometimes it steps through. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. New Twisted Tales drop every week. Turn on notifications so you never miss a scare. Share your theories in the comments. Who do you think opened the first door? Hit the bell and join our haunted little corner of YouTube. Because once you hear the whispers,